Good morning and welcome to episode 76 of the Jaguar
Mm,
Report podcast. Oh,
Good afternoon.
good afternoon.
Little midday podcast.
Stick, John. I like saying good morning at any time of day,
Yeah,
especially if it's not morning.
I
So
want, I want,
it's
I
still
want
good.
them to know that it's different though. That the aura is different.
All
I'm
right.
I'm a different take haver in the middle of the day than I am right when I go to bed. I am. When it's the middle of the day, I've had all day to think about why not to say it. When it's first thing in the morning, I'm just firing off the hip, man.
That's true. That's true. See, that's why I like doing it in the morning, is because you don't think about it or you don't overthink it. It's just right off the dome, right off the
That's
bat.
why I like
Fresh
doing the
takes.
morning. I didn't think I'd ever. Well, we obviously recording a little bit later today. Thank you for everybody listening because I personally wanted to go to the Miller Electric Center and see how the Golden Boy, the franchise, looked in the final practice before Sunday because I didn't want to come on here and freaking talk about CJ Beathard for 30 minutes. So I didn't think CJ Beathard was going to start. I don't want to talk. No offense, I don't want to talk about CJ Beathard for 30 minutes in my life in general. Like if you add up all the time, yeah, no. So that's why we went ahead and recorded later today. Gus, how you doing, my guy?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm hoping that I got my internet a little bit fixed up.
You
Uh,
you got out of your cave?
Yeah. Apparently, it sounds like we're pausing every few moments. Maybe not every few moments, every other moment. But yeah, no,
Contrary.
next. So I'm doing all right. I'm excited to talk about this game because I was also not really interested in spending any time on any of the backup quarterbacks in Jacksonville. But I mean, tell us what you saw today because I wasn't out there, but you were at the Miller Electric Center.
For the record, it sounds like you're pausing, and it sounds like I'm wandering aimlessly trying to fill it. Your Wi-Fi reminds me of the people who used to like get hangers and put them like on top of like their TVs, back in the good old days. When was that? 60s, 30s? I don't know. It's
67,
bad.
right? I don't
Yeah,
know. You split the difference in 45.
the best scenario would be that Bulky listens to our podcast, and he figured the only way to stop the bulky balls was to go ahead and go right to the source and take out your Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
But,
Wi-Fi.
yeah, I'm gonna wake up with a horse head in my bed now. You just got bulky ball.
Oh man, that would it even surprise anyone though if you said that for real?
No.
He's just
No.
part of the lore, but
Yeah. But like you said, went out to practice, today.
yeah,
Trevor, he looked like Trevor. Like if I didn't know that he was nursing an ankle injury, like if today was the first time I'd ever gone out there and watched him, I wouldn't think he was hurt. He moved around fine. He did some mobility stuff, like some stuff where they're just rolling out and throwing on air. Him and Beathard and Nathan Rourke and the Friday emergency quarterback Brandon McManus, who every Friday likes to do some quarterback drills. I'll say it. Brandon McManus can kind of sling it from what I saw. They were doing like the net thing where you're like throwing it to the corner of the end zone, the net, and he was drilling it too.
Are you serious? I feel like all of training camp, I saw like maybe one ball go into the net.
Yeah, it looks harder than it probably like you would think, and I think it looks hard. So, but no, I thought Trevor was moving around good. The fact that he didn't even wear a boot going into his press conference on Thursday, and I believe the man, the myth, the legend, Ozone, John Osher, said this week, but it's a big deal in this league when the quarterback speaks during the week. Normally, like if you talk during the week, you're the starting quarterback that week. That is like very much so what's been the case. I can't remember a single week in my 5 seasons covering them where a guy talked during the week and he wasn't the starting quarterback. So I'm not saying that they decided yesterday that or whenever he talked that he was the starting quarterback, but I do think I know it's Wednesday. Yeah, I do think it matters that they went ahead and put him up there, on the podium. At the very least, like worst case scenario, it doesn't seem like this is like something that would like knock him out for like extended period of time. So even if he did, in some scenario miss this game against, the Browns, and there's obviously reasons, cases to make for and against him playing, I think he'd be back the very next week. So either way, I think he looks fine, honestly. And that's he's probably, thinking, like, shit, my ankle hurts a lot, but I thought he looked fine. My gut guess right now, if I had to say, I think he's playing, man. So I left the stadium on Monday night when
Mhm.
it was reported that it was an ankle sprain. Schefter said on Monday night that it was an ankle sprain before Doug ever said anything. So I left the stadium on Monday night thinking he would miss this game, rehab like hell, and come back next week versus the Ravens on Sunday Night Football.
Right.
Pivoted as of today. I think he's going to play on Sunday, and I think there's a number of reasons that go into it. Obviously the player is a big part of it. I feel like Trevor Lawrence would get into like a 15-car pile up and still try to start like if the game was like the next day.
Totally.
But I just from seeing him today, I personally think he's going to start. And also, like, these games matter for the Jags. Like, if he's able to start, like, in any facet, like, even if he's not 100%, but if he's able to go out there and run the offense, I'm not going to disagree with the notion that maybe they have to start him because they don't have breathing room in the AFC South. They don't have breathing room in the AFC in general. Everybody in the wild card is one game behind them, including the team that they're playing on Sunday. Cleveland, Indianapolis, Houston. They're all sitting there at 7-5. Jags just one game ahead of them. I know the Jags have it's kind of a fake 1-game lead. It's more of like a 2-game lead in the AFC South because they have what is it? The tiebreaker over the Colts because they beat them twice, and then they have a higher strength of schedule than the Texans. So they technically have a 2-game lead, but it's the NFL, man. Like, these leads go out of the window so quickly, and then you play the Ravens next weekend. Like, you can't afford to go into next week on a 2-game losing streak, I think, because that's just a very hard game to chalk up as a win, even if they were healthy and rolling. So I think he's going to play this week, and I think the fact that they have such a slim lead, such a slim cushion matters. If they won on Monday night, would he play? I'm not so sure, but they didn't. So I think he's going to play, is my guess.
Yeah, I think other injuries also matter because CJ Beathard has been popped up on the injury report this week with the shoulder.
He might be questionable.
Yeah, during the game on Monday, he did something to his wrist or injured his wrist, and then he said it was the shoulder, and then he was on the injury report this week. So clearly, it's lingering a little bit. And then not just the quarterback position, but Walker Little and Tyson Campbell seem like true 50-50 decisions, and may go, may not. And then there's Trey Herndon as well. The Jags have plenty of injuries, and so that makes the race in the AFC even tighter. And so it's not I think also just if Lawrence was the only player that was questionable for the Jaguars and they're going into Cleveland otherwise healthy, then maybe they'd be all right, we can put together a win with CJ Beathard over Joe Flacco or DTR or whoever is starting for the Browns. But since they're not full strength, they gotta kind of take what they can get. And Doug was saying this week, he kind of clarified about players going in 100% because he said he would never play. He would never have a player go in that wasn't 100%. And then Gene was like, come on, it's the NFL. No one's actually 100% healthy. He's like, yeah, okay. Let me clarify.
Pointing his bony finger.
He's like, whoa.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. It's kind of a silly comment from Doug. I get what he's saying. You're not going to put a player in there if he might injure himself. But the reality is, in the NFL, if you can marginally play, you're probably going to play. Walker Little against who was it? San Francisco a few weeks ago. He wasn't 100% healthy at all. You could see it. Tyson Campbell. I don't think he's been healthy since week 6.
I was going to say, I think since week 5 was the last time he started and finished a game fully healthy.
Yeah, so I think that I'm with you. I think Beathard being banged up is a factor too. Beathard downplayed it after the game, and I think in the locker room this week. But if you even rolling with a healthy backup is a tall task. Rolling with an injured backup, and especially against, I know the Browns defense isn't as fearsome as it was in the first half of the season, but I mean, Zadarius Smith, Myles Garrett, potentially Denzel Ward, etc. going with an injured backup against them, I'd probably roll with the injured starter too. And I get it, but I don't think in the NFL that you can necessarily live in fear. I don't think you can go into a game saying we can't play this guy because we're afraid he could get hurt and screw the rest of the season. Because the reality is of where the Jaguars are at, if they lose, it could screw the rest of their season. So I don't think they would put Trevor out there if there was if he couldn't protect himself.
Yeah. That's what I clarified was that he was like, it's not 100% healthy. It's just 100% not being able to re-injure yourself, which is also a little bit of a stretch, but it makes also a little bit more sense. Is that as you're saying, it's more about whether it's going to be a re-injury or risk to aggravate the injury than the injury actually being fully healed.
100%. And we've seen Trevor play hobbled this year. Not to compare the injuries because I'm not a doctor. I only play one on TV, but I'm not positive comparing the MCL sprain he had versus the high ankle sprain he has now. I'm not positive which of those injuries would be more significant, but he played on a short week against the Saints that week, and he was able to protect himself. He even ran a little bit, which they probably didn't even want him to do. And two, they were able to protect him. They've shown that they can protect the quarterback. It'll be changing the offense from what's worked in the last couple of weeks, and it'll probably be a lot of people saying, to hell with Press Taylor, even though the point of this game on Sunday is probably a race to 20 points, and nobody's gonna be trying to light up the scoreboard.
Yeah,
you're just trying to get there and basically hang on for dear life. I think he's going to play. I did not think so in the immediate aftermath of that game. I probably didn't even think so on Tuesday when Doug talked to us. I think he does now.
I was going to say credit to you, though, because even if you didn't think he was going to play, you weren't ruling it out the last time we recorded on, what was that, Tuesday afternoon? Because I think me and the rest of the world was what you were thinking in terms of he'll definitely miss the Cleveland game and maybe be back for the Ravens game, just based on really Monday night alone. But then you were the first person I heard being like, whoa. I'm not saying he will play, but there's at least a chance.
Yeah.
I'm with you now though. I think he plays too. And it'll be an interesting game plan from Press Taylor because I think they're going to be trying to get rid of the ball in about half of a second.
The years of sitting on fences has finally served me well. This would be a hell of a week for them to actually have a running game, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
And also, both running backs are also injured. Jonas Johnson has a giant brace on his left knee. He's been limited this week. Travis Etienne is still limited. I mean,
tank week? Don't say tank week.
Go ahead and define what tank week means to you, and I'll let you know.
Tank week at this point is probably over 5 total touches.
Third round pick. Demetrius Harvey, great beat guy, corrected me today. We were talking about it a little bit, and he was like, "Yeah, both of Tank's snaps on Monday were on quarterback sneaks." So, three of his 4 snaps over the last 2 weeks have been on quarterback sneaks. It's an incredible amount of a lack of trust shown, which is, I mean, you're going into Cleveland. I'm assuming it's going to be rainy and gray and windy and cold and just horrible weather.
Yeah.
It'd be a great week to have a guy like Tank. The idea of what people thought Tank was. You go ahead and tell me right now. Give me a tick right now. Tank, over under 4.5 touches.
I'm going to go over because of the De'Ernest injury. I was thinking one of my picks was going to be De'Ernest Johnson over receiving yards, but then he's got a brace on his knee, which I wasn't aware of. And then also, that's pretty much it. But
so I'm going to go under, and I'm also going to propose that whichever one of us is wrong, we get a giant cardboard sign made out saying, "I got bulky ball this week," and you have to wear it the entire next podcast.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So
I'm going under.
Was that too big of a line? Did I set myself up for failure?
4.5 touches. I don't want to Google it, but how many games this year does he have 4 touches in? I mean, 5 touches in. Go ahead and guess right now. I'll see.
I'm gonna guess 1. I feel like one of the Colts had like 6 touches.
He had 9 carries against the Titans. I don't remember any of those.
No, because they were all in the fourth quarter.
Okay, I do remember that then. Okay, he had like 2 snaps before the game got out of hand, and he had 7 touches in week 1.
There you go.
So in those 2 games, he had 2.3 yards per touch in the 9-touch game, and then 1.9 yards per touch in the 7-touch game. I'm pounding the under.
Okay. So if you get, the line will be set at 4.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Like that's why like Lawrence's injuries always seem like such a doomsday scenario for the Jaguars. It's because like people talk about like quarterbacks putting the entire offense on their back, like Mahomes and Allen and Herbert, etc. And that's all very correct. I think Lawrence does like just the same, like it's not like they can turn to the running game when he's injured and say take some off of him, because they can't. It's not there. It's not like they have a super stout offensive line in front of him, or with Christian Kirk out, it's not like they have like a star-studded field of pass catchers either. So it definitely feels like it's a lot on Lawrence. But that's also what I kind of want to talk about. Christian Kirk being out, how big of an impact do you think that is?
Massive. I've got some stats for you about the Browns defense, which like all point to it being a huge Christian Kirk week on paper. So
let's hear it.
Obviously, it's a shame he's out for multiple reasons, but Cleveland ranks first in usage of one high shells and middle of field closed coverage, and fourth in man coverage. So ton of like one high safety looks, ton of just cover one man. And then the Browns are also first in success rate on both 4-man rushes and blitzes. So like whenever the Jaguars are facing A, like man coverage, and or B, a good pass rush, then like Kirk is usually their guy that they're looking to for a quick and easy answer. So I'm definitely interested to see this week. Like I think Parker Washington is obviously like the next man up. So I'm interested to see like on third downs how much of like the option routes and stuff like that they really trust him with, especially since like it was an option route that led to a Lawrence injury last week. And then whether like they try to get like Ridley into the slot a little bit more and run a little more option routes, which I would expect like maybe a small handful of times to happen, but definitely not for much of the game, because then it's like, who are you going to go put outside in Ridley's place? Like Zay Jones clearly can't really do anything more than 10 or 15 yards downfield yet. So yeah, I think it's going to pretty much have to be a big Parker Washington week.
See, that's where I'm going to disagree with you.
Yeah.
I think it's a big Ingram and Zay week.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing based on the numbers. This is all narrative based, but
yeah,
I think the biggest thing with Kirk is how much like of a repertoire him and Lawrence have, and how much Lawrence trusts him. Mm-hmm. And now you take him out of the picture. Who are the two guys Lawrence has the most trust in otherwise and will lean on the most, especially in high leverage situations? I think it's those two.
Yeah, easily. That's fair.
I don't know. That's not to say I don't think Parker will get his, because he had 6 catches for 61 yards off the bench last week, which is wildly impressive. But I think this is a week you see a lot of targets to Zay and Ingram. Honestly, Ingram especially, I feel like, because it seems like when they go quick game, they love like going to Ingram, like those little like 5-yard sit routes, and then ask him to get yards after the catch after. I think you're going to see a lot of that.
True. I do like the over for receptions for both of those two guys, because I think like Ingram is also going to get a decent amount of like RPO looks too, not just like the quick game, and just like for the same reason, just like get the ball into his hands quickly and let him try to get some yards after the catch. And then Zay, like again, I don't think he can do anything deep quite yet, but I would certainly expect him to be like a sure-handed possession receiver type target for Lawrence, and like the 5 to 10 yard range. So I definitely do think that those two will be heavily involved. And then it's just like, I think like on third downs, it'll be interesting of like, obviously defenses will probably key in a little bit more on Ridley. So like, are they going to try to scheme up Ridley against potential double teams? Are they going to try to scheme up Parker Washington because they know he's will likely get single coverage out of the slot? Are they going to try to scheme up Engram for seemingly the first time all season? Because I feel like they were like doing a lot of cool stuff with Engram last year, and then this year I feel like they've just haven't really like prioritized him as much, which is like
you don't like why Bubba?
I like it, but I like more stuff.
They love
it. Yeah, I'm interested to see if like he's used down the seam as like a perimeter receiver, like down the sideline, like we saw in week 1 where he had a nice sideline deep catch. So I'm interested to see like the utilization pretty much. But I certainly expect their game plan to be like get rid of the ball ASAP as possible.
He did that, and then I feel like we've seen him get targeted outside like one more time since then.
Yeah.
So we've talked about injuries at quarterback, talked about injuries at running back, talked about injuries at wide receiver.
Yep.
There's injuries at tight end. No Brenton Strange this week. Doug Peterson said probably no Brenton Strange. I don't remember who tweeted it. I would love. I should probably just go ahead and pull it back up so I can credit them. But they had a good point about the offense against Lay Bengals. It was Andrew Kessler, Duval Andrew 904. It was the first week this year they did not run a single snap out of 13 personnel. So Strange being out limits, schematically, something they can do because they're not going to ask Josh Peterson to do it, obviously. No. Then there's injuries at left tackle. There's Walker Little. I've said it once. I've said it a million times. If you don't practice during the week for a Doug Peterson team, you're not going to play that week. Like Trevor's practice, he's at least.
I was going to say earlier too.
Yeah, he's at least been limited. Walker Little hasn't done anything this week, so I expect Walker Little to not play. I think, at least based on conversations I've had, that he has a chance to return next week. It's like a hamstring. I'm trying to think of what I guess hamstring tear would probably be, the best way to put it. I think he has a chance to come back next week, if like not the week after. So I don't think it's a long-term injury, but doesn't look like he plays this week. So who starts at left tackle? I mean, that is literally, we've talked about their tackle depth, but now it's getting tested. Your options are Anton Harrison, Blake Hance, Cole Van Lannon, and Ezra Cleveland. It won't be Anton because, one, it's already too late in the year, like to ask him, in my opinion, to make that switch back over to the left side, especially if you're only doing it for a short period of time. Mm-hmm. He's had such an encouraging rookie season, in my opinion. That holding call, be damned, that I don't think you want to mess with his progress. He's probably your best starting offensive lineman right now with Walker and Cam Hurts. So your other options are Blake Hance. We saw him fill in for Walker last week. I don't think that automatically, Dude, Trey Hendrickson is really, really good, but Hance was getting worked. He was getting completely worked. And people have had this like weird assumption that Walker Little had a bad game or something. He had a really, really good game against the Bengals. Like you watched the All-22. Did Hendrickson make an impact in that game until that play?
No, that's what I was going to say, is that like that play is like what's causing a bias, because I thought the left side of the line had a rough night because Cleveland let up a decent amount of pressures, and then obviously once Hance got in, it was not good news. But Walker Little specifically, like I thought he was fine until that last play.
Like people saw him step on Trevor's ankle and assumed it was his fault. We now know it was Parker Washington's fault. Didn't run the right route. So I think I'm not sold that they would put Hance like back in there, because I think the biggest reason he played on Monday, I think I kept saying Sunday, I don't care. I think the biggest reason he played on Monday was because Ezra's already at left guard. You don't want to like put a guy at tackle who hasn't got any tackle reps, that week.
Yeah.
Cole Van Lannon's played some right tackle. I think he'd be like a second or third option. Yeah. I don't think they're in dire states to where they're starting Cole Van Lannon at left tackle in an NFL game. And then that brings Cleveland, who I got on my soapbox and sounded like a complete ass on here like a month ago, saying I want to be a left tackle in the NFL too. Looks like Cleveland has a chance to make me look like an idiot this week. Doug said today that he's gotten some reps there. I don't think that he was getting reps there before Walker got hurt, which, again, I think is the reason he didn't play there on Sunday. But he was a college tackle at Boise State. He seems like more like, you look at his athletic profile and the style of play, he seems more like a tackle than a guard, which also goes for Walker Little, which
I
makes
was
it
gonna say, like, it's similar to Walker Little.
yeah. So my guess is Ezra at left tackle is my guess. Ezra versus Myles Garrett.
I think it makes a lot more sense to move Ezra to left tackle and then have like Hance or Shatley or Van Hanen sub in then they're at left guard. Then it makes sense to move Anton to the left side because then you still like need someone to start at tackle on the right side. So I would definitely expect it to be going right to left. Harrison, Sheriff, Fortner, I guess Shatley, and Cleveland on the left.
I think so too. I think you're right. I think it's going to go Cleveland, Shatley, Fortner, Sheriff, Anton.
Yeah. So right to left, Harrison. No, I'm just kidding.
So Ezra versus Myles Garrett, and then Anton versus Zadarius Smith. There's two pretty big tests. They wouldn't leave Ezra on an island, would they?
They've been leaving their rookie right tackle on an island the entire season.
Yeah, is that different? I think it's different.
Yeah, that's probably different. They're definitely gonna pay more attention to, I mean, just wherever Myles Garrett lines up, really, and then obviously help out Cleveland a little bit more with chips and stuff.
Do we think they do it like the Titans a few weeks ago and just have two guys following them around? You remember that? A few months ago? Yeah.
I'm probably not since that didn't really work. But
yeah, they got a delay of game on that, didn't they? That's good stuff.
I will say, according to The Athletic, there's a quote that says, after last Sunday's loss in Denver, so 2 Sundays ago, Garrett needed assistance in the post-game locker room to put his shirt on so that he could get a sling on his shoulder. And then last week against the Rams, he was pretty much put a 0 on the stat board. He did his best Tony Snell impression and just like, I mean, the Rams definitely did a good job with their game plan of like getting the ball out really quickly against that Browns pass rush, but Garrett was largely ineffective. So it'll definitely be interesting to see this week because like we've been talking the whole podcast already about Jaguars injuries, but the Browns have plenty of injuries themselves, including Garrett. So
let's look at how many pressures Garrett had last week. He only had 2, which feels 2 pressures on 32 pass rushes, which feels insanely low. Though he did have a 22.6 win rate, so it's probably not like a hobbled Myles Garrett is probably still like one of the better defensive linemen in the league.
Easily, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
so it'll be interesting to see how they negate it because it's either going to be Hance or Cleveland. I feel like you said, Cleveland probably makes more sense. And if you're Cleveland, like, I don't know, it's a way to boost your stock, a contract year. So, could be big for him, I guess. You got anything else for us on the offense?
No, I'm good. Let's get to D.
All right. Going to go ahead and break. We'll be right back. All right, Gus. For as much as we've talked about quarterbacks here in Jacksonville, the Browns have had a much more depressing conversation.
Oh, yeah.
like Jacksonville, it's like, will the franchise quarterback play this week or not? And for Cleveland, it's like, will Joe Flacco play or will this terrible rookie quarterback who's been in a concussion protocol play? DTR, I think, has been the second worst quarterback to start a game this year. The first is PJ Walker, obviously. So
yeah. PJ was pretty rough.
Yeah, PJ's bad. So if Cleveland's been playing like the sportsmanship game all week. Like it's Friday afternoon, and I saw like a report before we started potting that said they were still declining to say who their starting quarterback's going to be. Mm-hmm. DTR is Dorian Thompson-Robinson is now out of concussion protocol, so he has a chance to play. Obviously, Joe Flacco got the start last week. I want to put you in, go ahead and get your visor on, get your play sheet, put on your Mike Caldwell pants, step into your Mike Caldwell shoes.
Mm,
You are Mike Caldwell. Who would you rather face a quarterback? Joe Flacco or DTR?
DTR easily.
Really?
Because I agree with you where like he's been one, if not the second worst, just like one of the worst quarterbacks this season. And Flacco in the game last week against the Rams, even though they lost, like Flacco didn't look nearly as bad as I think anyone was really expecting him to. So I think most Browns fans are like, yeah, we'd rather have Flacco. And I'm expecting Flacco to get the start. But if I were, I mean, DTR definitely brings some more athleticism, but I think Flacco is like a little bit more cool in the pocket, a little more cool under pressure. So if I were Mike Caldwell, I would definitely be rather play like this rookie who's susceptible to pressure than this elite veteran like Joe Flacco.
Yeah, and so that's my thing is how much should the mobility play a role? Like normally, like if I have a backup quarterback, I'd rather them be like a mobile quarterback, just so like Josh Dobbs. He's a perfect backup quarterback. He can go in there without any game reps and like scramble his ass off.
Mhm.
Like I just think those guys are harder to defend than pocket statues like Flacco and like no offense like CJ Beathard.
Yeah, I think that's true. Like in general, I just think that like in this case, Flacco's a better quarterback than
I,
DTR.
I agree with you. I do think he's a better quarterback. It's I don't know, man. It's tough. I just feel like they've struggled so much with mobile quarterbacks, but also I don't know. I got some take PTSD when it comes to them versus quarterbacks after Monday Night Football. I was talking all big and bad about Jake Browning this, Jake Browning that. I'm not ready to say that they can have guaranteed success against Joe Flacco or DTR. Honestly, like I feel DTR would pass the ball poorly, but I'm not sure they'd be able to contain his rushing.
Yeah, I don't know. Has he done a lot of rushing this year? Like, has he been like a
Well,
big?
no.
I
don't,
don't
don't ask me questions like that.
know.
You're
Yeah.
expecting me to
Well,
know about the quarterbacks the Jaguars might be playing? Get the hell out of
well.
here.
Speaking of takes, my hot take a few weeks ago was that Joe Flacco would be the most productive quarterback remaining on Jacksonville's schedule outside of Lamar Jackson. And like when I said that, I was like picturing a game that was pretty much exactly the game that Jake Browning played last week, where like the run game is working for the offense, and then you're able to just like do a bunch of like quick screen and RPO passes, and then a few like deep play action shots off of your successful run game with a positive game script. That's kind of like how I saw this Sunday going for the Jaguars is that like Cleveland, I mean, their run game isn't as elite as it usually is, obviously without Nick Chubb in the lineup, but they still are like a run first offense that kind of like builds their playbook off of the run. And so you'll see like I think they were fourth in usage of bootlegs or just like rollout play action passes. So it's going to be a lot of Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt trying to like pound the rock, and then Flacco letting loose on play action off of that. I do think that the personnel is interesting on this side of the ball too, because we talked about how like the Jags won't be able to do 13 personnel against the Browns defense, which that probably would have helped because the Browns defense isn't like as light bodied and bad against the run as they were last year, but they're still like definitely more of a worse run defense than pass defense. Um, but then for Cleveland's offense, they rank seventh highest in usage of 11 personnel, which surprised me because I thought even like going back to like the Baker Mayfield era for them, I thought they were like definitely more of a multiple tight ends, even multiple running backs on the same play, like definitely heavy personnel. So it surprised me that they use light personnel a decent amount. And unfortunately, that's probably bad news for the Jags because I think Cincinnati like was able to use a lot of 11 personnel because that's really their MO too. And they were able to like, as we kind of broke down the last episode, get Jacksonville into more 4 down fronts than 5 down fronts and
Yeah.
had some success. And so I'll look for the Browns to like try to have success in their running game out of lighter personnel, even though like before today I would have expected it out of heavy personnel.
Yeah, that's honestly a really good point. But we both have said it. Like I firmly believe a big reason they struggled against the run last week was because they were in so much nickel. Like,
Yeah.
if you go look at like their third down efficiency versus the run this year, it hasn't been good all year. And part of that's because it's third downs passing down, but also because like they're just not equipped to stop the run with like a light group up front.
Yeah.
Like with Roy Robson Harrison, Adam Gotsis at the two defense tackle spots, or Devon Hamilton or Foley Fatakasi. It's just not. It hasn't gotten it done for them all season. So
Yeah. I think not having Ham is like a big reason for that, because I think if Ham like hadn't had the injury over the offseason and like was as good this year as he was last year, then like I feel like the Jags had a little bit more success like defending the run out of nickel last year, because Ham was a little bit better at like being able to take on double teams and really like control the front on his own almost in 4-down fronts. And so I think they're definitely missing that this year.
yeah, that's a good point. I think when it comes to defense, also this week, the secondary is like a big question mark. I know Cleveland, Amari Cooper's probably not going to play. Dude's got ribs, like he's listed on the injury report, ribs and concussion. So I'm like, is Amari Cooper okay?
I was going to say that's definitely a big part of the equation for the 11 personnel thing. Like, if they're going to want to, like, the Browns should try to get 3 receivers on the field a lot to take advantage of like Jacksonville's bad run defense out of nickel, and then obviously all their secondary injuries. But then Cleveland has the injury itself with Amari Cooper probably not playing.
Yeah, so that leaves Elijah Moore and David Njoku, if as they are really only 2 real pass catchers. I know they have David Bell, who I think I could take in a foot race. Dating back to his Purdue days.
Yeah.
It just they have Marquise Godwin on their roster too. I think I saw a stat. They're like 0 for 8 on attempting deep passes to him this year. So
that's funny.
So it's a banged up receiver room versus a banged up secondary. Trey Herndon's still in the protocol, so we can assume he's not going to play. Tyson Campbell, Doug Peterson said, I almost called him Gus Peterson. Jesus. Like, I don't know if I was thinking about you or Gus Bradley. I don't know. I don't want to think about it either. Nonetheless, I'm not sure Tyson plays this week. Honestly, if I was a betting man, I'd probably say I don't think Tyson would play this week. So that's 2 starters down the secondary. I think Buster Brown would replace Tyson, and Greg Jr., and maybe a little dash of Antonio Johnson, but probably not too much yet. Just a little bit. Just Antonio, So Greg Jr. and Buster Brown in the secondary. I know it's Joe Flacco. I know it's a wide receiver room with Elijah Moore as its best receiver, but how much does that concern you?
I'm concerned just because of like Stefanski. I think Stefanski is like one of the offensive coaches that kind of like has the goods and is good at game planning. And so I think that like he's going to be able to like dictate personnel, and like whenever the Jags are like ready to defend the run, then like he'll get a screen pass out to Elijah Cooks that like works just well enough. And so clearly like these weapons for the Browns aren't very exciting on paper. Like they're not going to have Deshaun Watson, Nick Chubb, Amari Cooper, and that's definitely like the big 3 of their offensive skill position guys. But I think Elijah Cooks had like really good opportunity last week, and then Flacco just like didn't hit him downfield a couple of times. But I think Elijah Cooks is going to end up having like a pretty decent game with all of Jacksonville's injuries.
Yeah,
did I say Elijah Cooks? Elijah Moore.
You did. You said Elijah Cooks, and I was about to jump out of my chair and like unplug everything I had in my laptop.
I just realized. Wow,
this isn't a professional podcast,
but Elijah Moore could have a decent game. I would take his over probably for yards.
I feel like Elijah Moore is like a very NPC receiver in the NFL. I loved him coming out, dude.
Yeah, dude. Me too.
I thought he was like the next DJ Moore.
Yeah, I thought. Oh man, I'm trying to think of like DJ Moore's a good one. I thought he was just like a undoubtedly slot guy. Like I thought he was gonna like destroy the league out of the slot.
But playing for the Robert Saleh Jets as an offensive player saps your skill, talent in your life force. That
I
is
mean,
that's my
we're
take.
just playing for the Deshaun Watson Bills, honestly. Maybe he'll find a third home and end up piecing together a decent career. But honestly, at this point, it's probably too little, too late.
Like he's not bad, but he's like closer to being just a guy than he is to being good.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
So I don't know. I feel like Stefanski is like an underrated like offensive mind and play caller.
Mhm.
Like I feel like nobody probably ever wants to say positive things about their offense because of the nasty man at quarterback, which completely I get it. I get it. I feel like he could scheme around like some of their issues and knowing that some of the guys the Jaguars have down. I don't know, man. 6 days, no, not 6 days, 4 days removed from Jake Browning going off on them. How surprised would you be if Joe Flacco had like career like resurgence type game?
Not at all. Not at
No,
all. I will say I would also be not surprised if the Jags end up winning this game 28-0, just because we've talked before about how they have this super weird thing this season where they're terrible at home, but then as soon as people start to doubt them, they light things up, and that's when they play best. And so that's just kind of lingering in the back of
I'd be
my head
surprised.
is that maybe they'll be super motivated, but I think I'd be more surprised by under 100 yards from Flacco than over 300, if that makes sense. I
Yeah,
think there's a better chance Flacco has a really good game than a really bad game
I'd be really surprised if he threw for under 100 yards.
for over 100.
No, under.
Oh
That's what
yeah,
you said, right? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, no. I think Flacco's going to have a fine game, and fans will be upset at the fact that Joe Flacco is having a fine game. But I also think, again, this is a race to 20, 21
yeah,
points, and
yeah,
whoever gets there first will probably win the game.
yeah. Fans won't be Too upset. Flacco could put up 250 yards and 2 touchdowns, but if the Jags end up winning, then no one will really care too much.
So that's my thing. I think this is the perfect like in the NFL. I firmly believe that winning is all that matters. I know that's kind of been disproven with some recent teams. The Vikings last year, the Giants last year, the Steelers a few years ago when they started. What was it, like 13-0 or something like that? Like
Yeah, dude.
they were 13-0, and everybody knew they sucked.
Yeah, except for people in Pittsburgh, they're like, no,
Yeah,
we still got it.
yeah, no. So, but I do genuinely think the saying that there's no such thing as an ugly win is true in the NFL. I think as long as you win, yeah, you can look at what can be improved on, etc. But as long as you win, that's all that really matters. But I think especially this week, if they win the game this week and people are upset about how the defense played or how the offense played or Press Taylor or Mike Caldwell, I just think they're missing the forest for the trees. I think if they win, I think everybody should be happy with no complaints, no matter how they get there.
If they win and no one aggravates an injury, I'll throw that asterisk in too. But I agree.
Why would you say that?
You're right. You're right. I'm knocking.
The hell would you say that for?
Just wasn't thinking.
Yeah. No. So that's my big takeaway, especially the defense. If they win, it shouldn't matter to anybody if Joe Flacco throws 280 and 3 touchdowns. As long as they win, that's all that matters. I was touring around with the New York Times playoff machine. They basically just need to win. Oh God, you hear that little voice crack? I hated that.
No, I missed it actually.
Okay, good. They basically just need to win 2 of the next 5 games.
Really?
Yeah. If you give them 2 more wins of the next 5, they have a 99, over 99% chance to make the playoffs. Anything less than that, and things get interesting. So I think you get to 10 wins, you're at the very least a wild card team. So I think that winning a game, no matter how you win it, is big. So yeah, I could see Joe Flacco having a week kind of like Jake Browning did last week, but as long as they win, I don't think it matters.
Yeah. As long as they win, not 38-35, because as long as it goes the way we're expecting, because people might still be upset even with a win if Flacco goes for 404 touchdowns. But yeah, we'll see.
Fair enough. All right, Gus. We're going to break real quick. Then we're going to get to our final game predictions. All right, Gus. You brought this to my attention before we started recording, but Prize Picks has pretty much no Jaguars picks on there because of the status of both Trevor Lawrence and the Browns quarterbacks. It's like 3 different Jerome Ford props, I think. Every running back graph I see out there says Jerome Ford is one of the worst running backs in the league. So just off principle, I'm going to say lock of the week. Jerome Ford unders. I don't care what it is. Jerome Ford unders. Lock of the week. Unders on Jerome Ford. Second lock of the week. Tank Bigsby under 4.5 touches. As long as those hit, I'm fine.
Okay. My lock of the week is going to be over 4.5 touches for Tank, obviously.
Lock. That's like a lock in the same way like tying dental floss around a gate is a lock.
Well, I couldn't not say it was a lock after you said it was a lock. I got to at least fake confidence about it. I also like, once they come out, if they come out, Zay over receptions, but not yards. Engram over receptions, but also yards would be fine if it happens to be better. Wait, what did I say? Engram?
Yeah, you said Engram over receptions and yards.
Yeah. I mostly like receptions, but if the yards happens to be a better line, then I'm fine with either one. Okay. I was going back and forth with Ford, honestly, because I've been enjoying taking opposing running backs unders all season, but then it was bad news from Mixon last week. But I'll join you with the under. And then my lock of the week, I'm going to say Engram scores a touchdown, and hot take is that it's going to be off of a fake RPO. Or I think the Jags are just going to be spamming RPOs on offense. And then once they get into the high red zone on one drive, they're going to do a fake pass. And then someone, I guess I said Engram, is going to go long and get a touchdown off of it.
Did you watch the Steelers last night?
No.
Connor Hayward took a handoff off a reverse and then tried to throw a touchdown pass to Darnell Washington.
Are you serious? That sounds awesome.
Didn't work.
I gotta go find that clip though. Holy cow, that sounds entertaining either way.
Yeah, it felt like champagne-worthy celebration. Darnell Washington caught a pass.
He's actually been okay though. He's been what Jags fans probably are trying to convince themselves that Strange is.
There we go. We got him to say it, everybody.
You got any hot takes this week?
Myles Garrett, 0 sacks.
Oh, yeah. I remember another one I had that I forgot to write down was that the Browns will record 0 quarterback hits.
Damn.
Okay. I really think that Lawrence is going to be catching the ball out of shotgun and throwing it immediately. 9 out of 10 pass plays.
I'll go Myles Garrett, 0 sacks. Evan Ingram, 100 yards.
0 sacks isn't hot enough, I don't think. Say 0 pressures or 0 quarterback hits, because it's Myles Garrett and he's playing
for Cleveland.
All right.
Okay. Myles Garrett. Okay. Myles Garrett, 0 quarterback pressures. I'm showing you how a real man has a take. I don't back down. From it.
That's what I thought.
Write it down. Right. Myles Garrett.
I'm writing these down.
0 quarterback hits. Evan Ingram, 100 receiving yards.
Oh.
Greg Jr. takeaway. Greg Jr. takeaway. Yeah. I'll show you how to have a take.
He had 3 in that one preseason game. That was insane.
It was great. He kind of forced fumble on a punt and then a forced fumble on the next defensive drive. And I think he also had an interception.
Yeah, that was pretty fun game. All right, those are good ones. Yeah, I like that.
All right, Gus. Predictions.
Yep.
Give me a score. Give me any score.
16-13 Jaguars.
16-13 Jaguars?
Yeah.
20-18 Jaguars.
The race to 20.
Yeah, exactly. 20-18 Jaguars is my guess. I don't know. I feel like the Jaguars have a better defense than the Rams do, even after Monday Night Football's drubbing.
Yeah.
Like Flacco wasn't good. He was better than people thought he'd be.
Yes, that's correct.
So I still think he's still, geriatric Joe Flacco. So I'm not expecting like a ton out of him scoring wise. I think Jerome Ford's really bad. Kareem Hunt's banged up. So I'm not sure exactly how Cleveland scores points. I set it down. They're going to go on like a 10-play, 8 first down drive.
The Bengals supposed to be scoring points last week.
Yeah. So 2018 is my guess. I think the Jaguars, once they get like to a certain groove or lead, I think they take their foot off the pedal.
Yeah.
Like, just not risk it,
I mean, I feel like that's every other win this year, but I don't disagree.
Fair enough. That is pretty much every game they've played this year.
I feel like every time we come in here and you like say that line, which again, it's not untrue, but
I was gonna say, is it?
I mean, it's not like it's the NBA play-in tournament where they're trying to like rack up points for a tiebreaker.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
Dude, I don't get it either.
Who would win the NFL in-season tournament?
Probably the Bills. I mean, not this year, obviously, but
trying my hardest not to make a Sean McDermott joke.
Oh yeah, no, I forgot about that.
There's
because like the Bills are like kind of like a team that we both think are like Super Bowl a little bit fraudulent as contenders. So like it would be kind of like very Bills to win an in-season tournament, but not the like actual championship.
The Sean McDermott thing brought out the best rotten fan brain I've seen in quite some time. So many like Bills accounts saying, Ty Dunn has an axe to grind. Ty Dunn is trying to character assassinate a good family man of faith. And Sean McDermott comes out an hour later and is like, yeah, we had a 9/11 discussion.
Man, yeah, what a year for the Bills. Holy cow. It's just, I guess really just since the Hamlin thing last year, it's been a roller coaster.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Bills would be one of my picks. Who else is like a fraud that it's not like a real contender?
Kansas City.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Kansas City.
Ooh. No, that's a hot take.
The Philadelphia Eagles.
That's a good one. Oh, they would definitely win the in-season one.
Are they the worst 10-2 team in NFL history?
Probably.
I think so. Just not impressed by them.
Yeah, no. I wish Jalen was fully healthy. I mean, I don't know how much his injury really has to do with it. Like, it might just be more of an excuse than anything real. But
no, you love David Carr. You think he was spot on about
get out of here. All right. You got everything on the list. Let's get out of here. You can't. That's just unreal.
Okay, sorry.
No one loves David Carr.
In 3 years, Derek Carr is going to go on that same show and say Nathan Rourke should start in front of Trevor.
How dare you?
All right, Gus. Any parting hot takes? Any parting shots? Anything you want to get off your chest before the Jaguars take the field next?
No. Before I like in the Big Cat roundtable, I wrote down 16-13 Browns, and going into the pod, I had the Browns winning, but I kind of talked myself into a Jags win, especially with that thing. Like, I don't know why, but like every time that like this season people start to like hate on them, that's like when they play the best. So I think they'll be able to just get away with the ugliest win ever.
Do I get no credit for talking you into it?
Oh no, you get all the credit, so that way, if the Bills or if the Browns win, then I can.
Don't give me all of it. don't want that.
You'll give me the right amount based on my own takes, but no, I don't really. Nothing's coming off the dome.
That's fair. I think if the Browns win, they should tweet out #thank you Sashi. Not enough people will get that.
Yeah.
The nerds tweeting for years, thank you, Sashi, as he builds a terrible, terrible team.
Oh, He's getting a little saved by coaching, I think. I mean, there has been like some good players brought in, but I mean, now that Schwartz is there,
Yeah, I'm with you.
Schwartz actually knows how to coach.
I think Andrew Berry's a competent GM. He's better than Sashi Brown was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, Gus. That's it for me. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming next week. Will be Monday and Friday mornings, unless I don't know, Trevor Lawrence has a finger fall off or something, and we're back to the same, rodeo. But nonetheless, thank you guys for listening as always. We'll be back next week and, enjoy the game. Oh, sorry. Sashi Brown, you've been bulky bold. There we go. Got to end on that.